Hi there, it's Sandy, your sister and your friend. Welcome to today's video. This is March 2025, and I don't know how you're feeling. I'm just sharing my journey with you, but this year seems like everything is happening so super fast. It feels like almost like you can't catch a breath before 12 other things that I thought were stable and were things I could look to for safety. Those things, the rug's been pulled out from under them, and it doesn't matter whether it's government or religion or educational systems or sometimes family situations. There's nothing outside of me that I can count on. So this is a time where I really do need to be looking inside me for the stability and the grounding and the centering that I need to live in 2025 in a sense of being at peace. So now if I'm looking not outside of me, but looking for all the answers inside of me instead, that's where I'm going to find. I'm going to find that everything I need is within. And I think this is going to be a time this year where I really transcend my old way of thinking, my old way of like, oh, out there, there's something out there. No, everything is within me, and within me is the ability, because of who I truly am, to transcend this three-dimensional world that we've been counting on, or I've been counting on for a really long time, and instead say, no, 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 that can exist or not exist. Everything I need is within. And I was thinking about, because I was raised Christian, I was thinking about Jesus and a lot of his examples. There's this one that I love where he was on a boat out in the middle of the Sea of Galilee with his disciples, and a storm came up out of nowhere, and the waves were crashing over the side of the boat, and maybe the wind was tearing up the sails, and they didn't know if they could hold on. Well, in the meantime, Jesus, it says, was asleep on the boat with his head on a cushion. So he was not sensing anything at all going on outside of him. And so the disciples woke him up saying, "Don't you care that we're perishing?" And Jesus looked at them, and then he looked at what the storm that was around the boat, and probably he looked beyond the storm, and he just said to the storm, "Peace, be still." And the storm just vanished. There was no storm anymore. And the disciples were frightened, thinking, what manner of man is this who can speak to the storm and the wind and the waves, and they obey him? So the lesson that I get from this, there are a lot of lessons from that, but that while things were raging around and the disciples could only see with their physical eyes the storm that seemed to be about to take their lives, Jesus he wasn't ruffled. He didn't even know the storm was going on, didn't know anything at all that they were afraid of until they woke him up. And he just spoke. He spoke because he is peace, and so he could speak peace and knew that peace would be the outcome of his words, that his words were always true and secure. And why were they that way? Because he knew who he was. He knew himself as the eternal Son of God, who had all the power of God, nothing having ever been withheld from him, so he could cure the sick, heal the sick, and raise the dead, and bring Lazarus out of the tomb after 4 days of being in the tomb. There was nothing too hard for Jesus. And he said, may we know that we're one with him just as he knows that he's one with the Father. That means that we also are eternal, the eternal Son of God. And Jesus knew his life as one of complete power. There was nothing that God had withheld from him, and there's nothing that God has withheld from us, because we are also just like Jesus. He just spent the time and energy and was willing to transcend this world that we're in right now. And he said that we too can be in the world but not of it. That's who we are. There's a passage in A Course in Miracles where Jesus tells us something I wanted to share with you. It's the title of this paragraph is called Believing in the Resurrection. And Jesus says this: "It is impossible not to believe what you see, but it is equally impossible to see what you do not believe. Perceptions are built up on the basis of experience, and experience leads to beliefs. It is not until beliefs are fixed that perceptions stabilize. In effect, then, what you believe, you do see." That is what I meant when I said, "Blessed are ye who have not seen and still believe. For those who believe in the resurrection will see it." The resurrection is the complete triumph of Christ over the ego, not by attack, but by transcendence. For Christ does rise above the ego and its works and ascends to the Father and his kingdom. Would you join in the resurrection or the crucifixion? Would you condemn your brothers or free them? Would you transcend your prison and ascend to the Father? So Jesus is telling us that the reality is that we share his resurrected life. The resurrected life of the Christ is the life that we actually have. And we have all the power that's associated with the resurrected life. That is who we truly are. We share the one life. There's only the one life. But if we don't believe that, we're going to live from a lower experience. We're gonna live from this very materialistic, three-dimensional time and space reality and thinking that that's all that we have. Where it is not. It is not all we have. Jesus said that you're one with me just as I'm one with the Father. So if I'm willing to see that I have the resurrected life, I can live, I can have that experience. That means I need to be willing to transcend my egoic, what I can see with these eyes in this world. And that means I need to change my mind. I just need to change my mind to say I'm greater than this because I am divine and human. These things are combined into one. So this is the power that we already have, but we need to tap into that power. And so I'm just going to tell you two things that I think, for me, that I've discovered thus far about how to transcend this world. One of them is getting still with the Lord. It's there that's where I'm going to know. It says, "Be still and know that I am God." This is where I'm going to know that I am one with my Creator. I am one with Source. I'm one with God. I'm one with Mother Earth. However we define or use terms that are comfortable to us to talk about God. This is truly who I am. And when I'm in stillness and I'm focused on, and I actually don't just focus, I actually ask, will you help me transcend this world? Will you help me see things as you see them? Because that's the only way that I want to see everything and everybody. And honestly, that's what's happening in my life, is that the more I just sit in stillness, and that's my constant prayer, is I want to see as you see. I feel like that is now my lived out experience, is that I become more and more conscious of my oneness with everything. And it comes from this being centered, no matter what is going on, what storm is out there. I can be very compassionate towards it. So I can pray for the people who are enduring things that are just really awful in terms of what this world's experience is. And I can show true compassion and pray light over those situations, light and love, and know that is actually very, very powerful. The other thing I need to do is to have a willingness to die to my old way of thinking. You can't be resurrected if you haven't died first. So, but that takes a real willingness on my part to say, I don't want to see the old way anymore. I don't want that old life. That life was limited, and I was a victim or a victimizer, and everywhere I turned, I wasn't free. I felt like, there was a noose around my neck. So I want to take the noose off from around my neck and I want to be all that you have created me to be. And I want to step into that, my authentic role of taking responsibility for my life in this grander scheme that you have come up with, that is a combination of humanity and divinity. And so I have heard a couple people use the example of a caterpillar turning into a butterfly, and that when the caterpillar, it's time for that part of the life to be over, and it forms a chrysalis or a cocoon, depending on whether it's a moth or a butterfly, that old caterpillar, the body inside that cocoon, it turns to mush, like a soup. It turns to a soup. There's nothing left that even would belie there was ever a caterpillar. It turns to a genetic soup, and now that soup is used to form a brand new creation, something that didn't exist before. There was an old creature that was a caterpillar, and now there's a new creation, and it's a butterfly. And when that butterfly comes out, it can fly, it can do things that caterpillar, it was impossible for that caterpillar to do. The obstacles that the caterpillar couldn't crawl over, the butterfly can fly over. It's a new being, a new creation. It's a new way of seeing the world. And that is what I believe transcendence really is. It's us going through a real metamorphosis. This isn't like just a little change. No, we got to leave the old stuff behind, the old way of thinking behind. And it just means that we just change our mind. We change our mind, and we have a new emphasis and a new desire and just a new love in our heart for really wanting to see the world through God's eyes. So that has been my experience thus far, and I hope this is helpful to you. It's a grand time for us to be alive. A lot of people say we chose this time to be here, and I feel like I did. I feel like I am excited about what is coming forward in my own life, and that as my life, as I get through this, caterpillar to butterfly stage, that I can actually bring that light and life and joy and peace to the whole world. So join me in this. I hope this was useful to you. If it was, I'd love it if you would subscribe to the channel, hit the like button, leave a comment. I love you so much. Go and be blessed. Bye-bye.